welcome to B2B Breakfast to Business with your morning girl, Bea Lim, also the Managing Director of TeamAsia. And today, we're talking about pride. And I'm very proud we're talking about pride. So with that, guys, ladies and gentlemen, it is the last Monday of June. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Hope you are all having a wonderful day, a wonderful week, a wonderful month. While I know it's been quite a challenging year, I hope, guys, you've also been able to see the silver linings, that you've been, that you've seen the ray of hope and greatness also in humanity, even if there are those challenging times or those times when, we need to take a pause and talk about what's going on out there. But, it is June. That means that we are going into the second half of the year. So we are all praying, hoping, wishing for brighter and better days ahead. Now, last week, ladies and gentlemen, we talked about Encore, entertainment gone virtual. We talked about how the live events industry has been affected by the recent pandemic and how people have really had to shift. Now, we had guests from the music industry. We had Erwin of Sponge Cola. We also had from Improv Theater. We had Happy, and of course also our TeamAsia Director for Experience, Pam. And we all had a great conversation on how the show must go on. The show must go on despite whatever it is that's happening there, because our industry needs to pivot. And we all have to look into great, innovative, and creative ways that we can continue with this amazing experience or with this amazing industry in the future reimagined. So if you haven't checked that out, guys, please do so. Tune into Encore Entertainment Gone Virtual. It is on Spotify, and we would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Now, let's go on to today's topic, guys. It is so special. It is very close to my heart. And it is about diversity and inclusion. It's about diversity and inclusion and why it matters. Not only in the general sense, like humanity, what the world needs, right? There is that song that says, what the world needs now is love, sweet love, right? And, I love that verse and I love that song and I love that line because it's so true. There's so much of this world to love, and we want to be able to bring that out in the sense of humanity. But we also have to look into diversity and inclusion and why it matters to businesses, why it's important from a business standpoint. Now, I did mention earlier that this is very special to me and it's close to my heart because, I love it. My family, my friends, my colleagues strongly believe it. And we make sure to exercise this as well in everything that we do because it is definitely the right thing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, diversity and inclusion should be at the heart of what we do because there are so many great things that come about when people are diverse, when people come together, and when we have this group or this sense of belonging and acceptance. And we're able to actually really push through with a lot of different solutions and innovative things as we move humanity forward. Now, guys, the reality is the world is no doubt a crazy space right now. Important discussions are still being had. And I believe that it's not up to us to just listen and that we actually need to be proactive and do something to help. Do something to move that conversation of diversity and inclusion forward. And this is exactly what we're doing at today's B2B Breakfast to Business podcast episode. In TeamAsia, we make sure that our family, our fam here in the agency supports, shows respect and love for one another because we have to make a stand, right, for everybody else that really supports diversity and inclusion. And we need to make the world a better place the best way we know how, which is to talk about it, to respect it, and to give it love. And that is the very essence of diversity and inclusion. Now, this month of June, our TeamAsia banner is so beautiful. When I saw this and when the team told me about it, I just really wanted to hug everybody. And it was so impossible because we're not allowed to hug with physical distancing and the like, right? But our banner actually for June is beautifully diverse, equally important. Again, that's beautifully diverse, equally important. Our 28-year-old company has always been a huge supporter of gender equality and an ally of the LGBTQIA plus community. For those people who don't know, we are women-owned and women-led, but we love our men and we love all of the different genders and representations here in TeamAsia. Our statistics show that we are not only gender equal, but we are also multi-generational. And we love that too because everybody comes together and there's that magic when everybody comes together, right? And our values are really centered on mutual respect for every single individual, for every presence and every belief, because we believe that that's where the magic happens. When everybody congregates, when everybody comes together, and that we are open with all of our experiences, with all of our insights, and we bring all of these forces together, right? And I'm very happy to have one of my colleagues with me here today to discuss how important diversity and inclusion is, more so in the workplace, because D&I is the very reason why this magic happens, why innovation and stability rises in every single company. That's our belief, that's her belief, and it's our collective discussion for today. And of course, with diversity and inclusion, you have to talk about it with someone, right? You need to have someone to talk about it because it's a topic that we're so passionate about. And here with me today is none other than TeamAsia's very own Executive Creative Director, Shu Manalo. Hey, Shu, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bea. Wait, I have a problem. The topic today is diversity. I thought it was about divers, and I'm a licensed scuba diver. So, no, okay, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, it's an important topic that should be discussed nowadays. Yeah, not just because of celebrating the LGBTQIA, but just the importance of having a lot of different types of people around us.
I know, and like Shu, you touched on being a diver, right? I want to actually go into that. So Shu always tells me this, ladies and gentlemen, but I want you guys to get to know her better, and that's actually what you're going to see or hear when we go through this podcast today. She's a diver of sorts. So maybe Shu, you can like just tell everybody what you do and why diving is so important to you.
Well, I'm gonna feel nostalgic because now is not the time to be able to go out, go into the sea on a boat, jump off. But yeah, I one of my slash jobs is that I'm a licensed diver. But at the essence of who I am, I'm really a writer. I am a part of the creative department. However, the idea of diving, the idea of getting into something really deeply, is one of the things I really enjoy doing. And right now, I've sort of started like to change my opinion that going deep into something is the most important thing. Now, at the time when people have lost their means of living, we need to look for different ways. We need to find new ways to pivot, and having a breadth of ideas, having a breadth of different kinds of people around us is really what it takes now. So now it's about going deep and going wide.
I love it. And so that's what we're going to do today. So guys, I loved what Shu said. We want to go deep dive, right? We want to dive deep into diversity and inclusion, but we also want to talk about, its breadth, right? Like to go wide and talk about this thing. And so Shu, on that note, before we even go into the actual discussion of why diversity and inclusion matters, especially in business, right, and creativity. Why is D&I important to you? Like to you as Shu, Shu Manalo, creative diver. Why is D&I important to you?
Well, okay, I can't like separate myself from the work that I do, but I grew up in this wacky, crazy world of advertising and communications, and I'm really surrounded by a lot of people in the LGBT group. I mean, it started out as LGBT, right? And now it's LGBTQIA. It's grown. I mean, you've got like the gender fluid, you've got the non-binary, you've got the pansexual, and like a lot of people don't even know what those mean. So you can do one of two things. You can Google it, or you can try to get to know different like people who are represented. And there are a lot of people, they probably will not be discussing what they do in their bedrooms with you, but you can talk to them about their opinions, which is very, very important to me, because this is how like my opinion, whether it comes to food, to fashion, to the books that we read. I mean, this is something that's important to all of us, that we don't get stuck in our little crowd, that like only 10 types of people, but the world is such a big place, and the more people the more open you are. And it's not just to have a fulfilling life, but it's so important in whatever kind of job you choose to get into, especially in the kind of career that I've chosen.
All right, absolutely. So thank you so much, Shu, for sharing that. I do believe that, it's not just about widening our experience and insights, in our personal life, but also using what we know and what we've experienced with diversity inclusion in our job, right? In any profession that we find ourselves, because we are able to draw on more insight. We're able to cast a wider net into the ocean and be able to really have a more fulfilling and more open approach to what it is that we do. Now, if you guys have not noticed it, we are pretty much obsessed with McKinsey and Company's reports and articles on the new normal. And so we wanted to bring that actually into the conversation. So just so that you guys know, we stumbled upon a report outlining why diversity still matters, especially in the midst of the pandemic. So if you haven't checked it out, please do so. It's McKinsey and Company's Why Diversity Still Matters report. And what we really wanted to talk about here is, the insights that we were able to get from that report is so important for us to take note of now. Like, in this pandemic, there have been so many issues that we've had to focus on. There are so many things that we've also had to put in the back burner, right? Because we've also had to concentrate on certain things over the others. But what McKinsey and Company's report is saying is that diversity should not be put in the back burner. You should not forget about diversity and inclusion as we reimagine the future, as we push forward and look into how to approach this new normal, right? So the report says actually that inclusion and diversity are usually at risk in a crisis, but that it's actually very critical for business recovery, resilience, and reimagination. Now, the research highlights that a strong correlation between gender diversity and positive behavior directly related to better organizational health, which in turn, of course, is associated with better business performance. So one of the examples actually that was stated in the report was during the financial crisis in 2008. They pinpointed that, institutions or banks that with a higher share of women on their boards were actually more stable than their peers. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So this research also suggests that banks run by women might be less vulnerable in a crisis. And reports have also shown as well that cities and countries with women leaders are thought to be facing the COVID-19 pandemic more successfully than those without them. Yeah, girl power, and yeah, we've actually seen this not only on the news, but on social media and all of that. And so, what we're really seeing here, guys, is that the pandemic has brought on a huge crisis all over the world. It has made jobs more vulnerable. And diverse talent may be most at risk. And that's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. But we shouldn't put a stomper on the progress of D&I. It shouldn't slow down during and after the crisis because we actually see D&I as a competitive edge. It's an advantage. It's something that will propel your organization or your business forward. And if I may quote, one of my favorite lines in this article, please check it out, guys, is this. And the article says, diverse teams are more innovative, stronger at anticipating shifts in consumer needs and consumption patterns that make new products and services possible, potentially generating a competitive edge. And I want to leave that to let it stew with you guys for just a moment because we believe that, diverse teams are more innovative and creative. And that's actually why Shu is here. And I want her to talk about that, right? Because today what we wanted to discuss is why, big all caps, shouty capitals, why diversity and inclusion still matters even when we're faced with a huge obstacle today, which is COVID-19 and the future, big question mark. So Shu, why is D&I a priority for businesses, or why should businesses still prioritize D&I, especially during this time? Go ahead.
Well, first, I'm wondering if McKinsey actually visited our office because it seems like they're discussing the kind of diversity we have in an office like ours. And, I cannot believe in McKinsey and everything that they're saying more than I already do. Because, to me, there really is nothing more dangerous than a person with only one idea. Yeah, a person with only one idea, just based on his own life, just based on his singular experience, singular experiences, just on his own point of view. I mean, there's nothing more dangerous than that. Person shows up in a room for a brainstorm and he's got one idea. He's going to be extremely precious about it. He's going to reject everyone else. It's a terribly dangerous and boring thing. Like if I walk into a room and I have an idea and everyone agrees with me, this that has got to be the death of any organization that has a single idea. So this is what it means to have a, a diverse group. And a lot of people, a lot of companies may be downsizing. Used to have 50 people, now they're bringing it to 20. It's extremely important to have as much of a wide range of different kinds of people. There was a time, like maybe in the 60s, they were just talking about men and women, and then later on they were saying, okay, we have to be represented by the gays and the lesbians, because that like really opens up to new stories. And now that we are seeing a lot of different definitions of what it means to have a diverse organization, it's not just limited to the LGBTQ group. It's also about like seeing diversity in age, seeing diversity in political opinions, seeing diversity in religious opinions, for that matter. There's a lot of different range in terms of what diversity means. And it's very important. What's important for every company, and it's very, very important to me, is to create a very safe space for you to be able to air out an opinion that is completely different from everyone else's. Like, for example, like if someone has the most different opinion, this is the one that you want to hear about, because this is what will change the way we look at the target markets, the way we look for insights for certain brands. This is the way we change the stories that we tell. Like sometimes stories are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you hear a really different point of view from a really, maybe marginalized group, maybe never heard before group, maybe never asked for his opinion group. And when you listen to those people, when you open up and give them a safe space to air out without you laughing at them, without you disparaging or shrugging off an idea just because it's different from yours. I mean, this is when the great ideas happen. And it doesn't matter if you're not in a creative agency like I am, and I feel that it is important to have those opinions heard, but it doesn't matter. Even if you're, let's say, in government, you take care of a lot of different people. You need to be able to deal with them in ways that you understand their lives. And if you don't understand the lives of people as they walk at night, whether they're in danger, how can you create like better policies? So it doesn't matter if you're in a creative agency, if you're in government, if you're in schools, if you're in banks. There are a lot of different ways by which we deal with different people, and a lot of ideas come from more diverse points of view. So I can't really agree more than I already do with that study. And I feel that every day when I walk into our brainstorms with our team, and it's what makes brainstorms more interesting, and it's what makes our communication strategies different every time.
Absolutely agree with you, with the report, with everything that you shared, that it's not just about one section. It's not just about being in an agency. It's really about life in general. Like, being able to come up with all of those different opinions and having that safe space for people to talk about the issues that are important to them or ideas that are important to them actually open up everybody else's minds, right? It's not just about a brainstorm or a policy, but it's also about teaching people about life, right? About different walks, different preferences, different talks and stories and stuff. And you actually get mind blown by how much information you can glean from those and how it opens up your world. And I think that that's what I really want people to take off from our conversation, right? That the diversity and inclusion discussion is not just about being inclusive and having a diverse group. It's about also you actually, expanding your knowledge, expanding your experiences. But Shu, you talked about creativity, right? And I mean, I need to ask you more about that because you already told the world, right, that you grew up in the advertising space and you've also seen how it has grown, right? Why is D&I or pride important in creativity and communication? I mean, based on your experiences or even your vision in the future reimagined.
The advertising industry or the communications industry mirrors what happens in society. So there was a time, you might think of the world of Mad Men, right, where there is such defined like gender roles, right? But the society grows and the industries grow along with them, and we start weighing in on certain positions in society or certain whether they be political positions or causes that affect like different people. In the recent years, there have been a lot of advertising targeted towards very specific groups that have been previously marginalized or that never had a voice. And there are big brands doing this. Like you've got, for example, Coca-Cola, you got Coca-Cola in Brazil, and they took advantage or mined this conversation, or they sort of ambushed the conversation where there was a certain word that's being thrown around almost disparagingly to a certain group, where it's in Portuguese and it means Fanta, which is actually a rather derogatory term that is directed at the gays. And Coca-Cola very, very creatively, like, said that uh, there is Fanta in Coca-Cola, or within Coca-Cola is Fanta. And it was a really creative way of launching a new variant while weighing in on an important issue that we are one with them and they are one with us. And this was a rather important conversation that was happening around 2018 when Pride was becoming important, when Prop 8 was being up for discussion. And even like Starbucks also weighed in on the transgender community, on people saying that, why do you have to change your name? And there was an ad, it was a very touching ad, where this newly transitioned transgender man was, he was contemplating this idea that people are not going to accept his new name. But in Starbucks, you put that name in the cup. You tell me your name is Jonathan, and we call you by your name. It was a very, very simple act, of telling people of that community that we are part of your community, and as much as you are part of ours. And so it's very important for us in the communications business to be part of these conversations, because we need to keep moving these conversations forward. We need to figure out where to be in the right side, in the correct side of history, as we move towards, opening minds towards a lot of different things that maybe have always been the provenance of the heterosexual female and male, like marriage and and ownership and family, that we need to open it up, because like these discussions are going on in different circles. And as advertising people, as people in communications, we need to weigh in on that and not just sit back and watch what happens. We need to be part of the conversation because it's important.
I love it. Absolutely. It's like we need to be part of that conversation because in reality, Shu, we are the conversation starters.
Exactly. We are the conversation starters. We're the ones that trigger people to think about things, even if it's uncomfortable. Even if it's uncomfortable, we have to put it out there so people can decide, do I agree? Do I not agree? We're the conversation starters. We're the storytellers. That's what we do.
And as any storyteller, we need to be able to provide a voice, a platform for every single character out there, right? And that we would love for them to own that history, own that story, and just be them, just be you, because that's what's important. Shu, I want to touch on something that you actually mentioned earlier, and I think that it's an important conversation to have because we need more of that, which is the safe space, right? Like you mentioned earlier about being able to provide a safe space. Like, what would be your tips in providing that safe space? I mean, you're in the creative business, you're in the communication industry, you're a storyteller. We start conversations, right? But there may be people, right? Or there may be organizations that are looking at means and ways to provide that safe space, to actually start those conversations. What would be your tips? Like, what do you feel as also a big idea generator of, how do we get that safe space to open up for people?
Well, a lot of it like has something to do with the environment, right? We need to have visual cues that say that we are like a safe space for whether it be your sexual orientation or how you define yourself. I came from an advertising agency. This is long, long ago, and I was very surprised about it that there were no labels in the bathrooms, right? There's just absolutely no labels in the bathrooms. Like, whichever is free, that's where you go. And I thought it was a rather progressive way to tell people that everyone is welcome and it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to explain anything. There are a lot of like simple visual cues. For example, in the way that we dress, there was also a time when we would just assume that the women are supposed to wear skirts to meetings. And why would that be part of any dress code? Why can't like a woman show up in a pantsuit? Why can't she show up in something dressy, but not necessarily like strict in terms of gender definitions and rules, because those are passe. They don't exist anymore in this day and age. There are a lot of visual cues, but there are also a lot of verbal cues. We need to be very careful about what we joke about. There was one instance. There was a time when somebody, a male office mate bought milk tea into the office, and some people said, "Ang lakas naman makabading nung drink mo." And I said, "Okay, when?" And I was really not okay with that kind of like statement. And it didn't matter that it was a joke. And I said, "Well, a drink does not make you gay, and you cannot, you know, assign things that are only for men, that are only for women, that are only for gay men." A lot of these, again, visual and verbal cues that open us up to the idea that, okay, there will be people here who are different from you. Live with it. That is how it is. Live with it. You live your life to the fullest, but in language, in visual cues, I think these are really important. And also in just pretty much welcoming them. I don't believe in like creating a quota. But I also don't believe in filling certain positions because you feel that works better for a man. It doesn't mean like, okay, I'm not going to put a female IT person because women are stupid with IT. That is a wrong statement, right? And you cannot assume that certain genders or certain roles are better suited to certain kinds of jobs. So again, even in your job hunting, even when you head hunt, when people make specifications that an account executive, for example, needs to be female and needs to be attractive, that's sexist, right? That like a certain role needs to be a man, or that a certain role needs to be is better suited for a lesbian woman. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't have a place in an inclusive workspace.
I know, and thanks, Shu, for sharing that. Well, I just wanted to add to the visual cues, or even just like not even the jokes, but the statements that we make. And I caught myself, actually. I was in a meeting one time, and I just heard someone say, "Hey, you just gotta man up and do it." And I, like, at that very moment, half of my brain said, I understand what you meant, which is to, like, suit up and do it, right? But then the other half of me was worrying and was like, why man up? Like, I'm a woman, I can do that. But these are things that have been ingrained, right, in people's consciousness and in society, and you almost don't know who to blame or to hold accountable for it, like, because it's been there. But then it's an important thing, like what you said, to provide that open space and safe space is not just about getting people to be open about it, but it's more of, being able to also provide that safe space of, hey, there are certain things we're going to do less of because those things assign certain things, right? Those things give visual cues that do not support this openness and the like. So thank you so much, Shu, for sharing that. That's been a great, conversation starter, and I think a thought starter for everybody else that's listening to our podcast. So guys, I think to sum up also, like what Shu and I have been talking about here is on a personal and on a business standpoint, diversity and inclusion, ladies and gentlemen, do give you guys a huge advantage. Whether it's on your personal space, like diversity and inclusion opens up your world, gets you to see different people, gets you to appreciate different insights. But from a business standpoint, actually, we see that a diverse and inclusive team is empowered. It is creative. It's filled with a lot of great insights, draws on different experiences. It is innovative, right? Because all of these ideas come together. Like what Shu mentioned earlier, it's dangerous to just have one single idea. Like we need innovative solutions and we need collaborative solutions. And therefore, let's bring in different representations, right? We also feel that and believe that a diverse and inclusive team is open and adaptive. And especially in a pandemic as big as this, we need that kind of support system. And last but not the least, and this is definitely what brings everything home, and I think Shu and I really do believe this, is a diverse and inclusive team feels like home. Like when you go home and you feel accepted, you feel safe, you feel like you can conquer the freaking world, it feels like home. And a diverse and inclusive team should feel that way. So guys, on that note, happy Pride Month. Shu, thank you so much for being part of this amazing show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I mean, I love that you were able to go dive and wide on the topic of diversity and inclusion. And guys, because we are talking about diversity and inclusion, we usually give a food for thought, right, for everybody there. But because we are diverse and inclusive, you will not only hear my food for thought, you will also hear the food for thought of Shu. So I will start our food for thought, right? For today's episode, Bea's food for thought for you is this one. Guys, our banner should be beautifully diverse, equally important. You are beautiful, you are whole, you are important, and we are all equally important. It doesn't matter what you believe, what you represent, what you prefer. We should all be equally important in the eyes of humanity, and that we are beautifully diverse inside and out. Shu, how about you?
Okay, so we also don't need to be so hard on ourselves. This is a process of learning. If you make a mistake on using a pronoun for a person, ask if you have made any offense, and correct yourself. So don't be hard on yourself, but keep on trying to improve, because really the shortest distance between two strangers, is understanding.
I love that. And of course, maybe our collective food for thought, guys, is create that safe space. Create that safe space, whether it's at home, whether it's in your group of friends, whether it's in the office or your team or whatever. Create that safe space and be a gatekeeper of that one, right? Be the one that reminds people that you should be kind to yourself and that you should be open. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for this Monday's discussion on diversity and inclusion. Again, we had Shu Manalo, the Executive Creative Director of TeamAsia, with us for today. And our topic really was why diversity still matters and should matter wherever, whenever, whatever the cost. And especially now, guys, with the future reimagined coming into place, we got to make sure that diversity and inclusion is at the core of that. So again, this is Bea Lim of Breakfast to Business. Thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, we're going to be talking about another secret topic. Just kidding. But we are keeping that under wraps until we see you on Monday morning. Please do stay tuned, though, because we'll be giving you guys tips and tricks and some teasers along the way Stay tuned for the next episode. Follow and like Team Asia's social media accounts for updates. Again, we're on Facebook, www.facebook.com/TeamAsiaPH. We're on Instagram, so if you're watching or listening and tagging us, please do so at Team Asia PH. We are on LinkedIn, www.linkedin.com/company/Team Asia. And of course, don't forget our beautiful website, www.teamasia.com. Thank you once again, everybody. Happy Pride Month. Be beautifully diverse and equally important. Salamat and see you next week. Bye!